Gentlemen, welcome back to another video. In today's video, I want to talk to you guys about being too choosy. And am I being too choosy? Okay, so being too choosy. So this is something that I have been accused of on several occasions. These are always by people who don't know me, but they do raise some valid points, and there are some things to think about if you are thinking about going over to Ukraine to try your hand at dating over there. But one thing that it's important to remember here is that being too choosy and being realistic, there is a line in between those two, and it's trying to identify what that line is. So what I wanted to do in this video today was go over 5 points that I think is important for any guy looking to go and do this. And with these 5 points, I didn't really even think about these at the start, and if you've never gone and done this, it's going to be something that you need to think about, or you're going to discover it along the way, the same way that I did. At the end of this video, I'm going to tell you guys how many dates I've actually been on, how many women that I had some connection with, and how many that I had a relationship with. And from there, once you've taken my information throughout this video, you better take a look at it, and maybe you'll have some thoughts as well that you can apply to yourself, or maybe you just want to put in the comments if you think that I am being too choosy. So when I say that I've been on a journey, it actually has been a journey. It's a journey of self-discovery. When you start out, you kind of know what you don't want based on previous relationships, but until you really sort of think about it and have that experience, then you start to discover some other things as well. After one of my relationships failed, I started another shorter one, which kind of failed as well. But I'll tell you about that at the end. What I did when I came back, I started researching, and that led me down the path, kind of like a wormhole, I suppose, down the path of like the Red Pill and MGTOW and things like that. And so I actually battled with these things for the last. It's not so bad now because I understand a little bit more, but I battled with these things when I started to discover them, and I had to make a decision: is all women going to be going to have these problems, or is there going to be something that you can find overseas? But that's a video for a whole other day. But I decided to pursue it. But one thing that I came across, and it completely changed everything for me, and it was a book, and I've mentioned it before, but The Tactical Guide to Women. If you read this book before you go, or even before starting any relationship, it will help you understand exactly what it is that you need to watch out for, and then you can find out a little bit more about what it is that you are going for. So that is number 1 on my list. Read this book before you start this journey. I only wish I'd read this book years ago. It'll help you avoid women that have maybe narcissistic traits, that have they're going to bring a lot of emotional drama. It'll help you to identify it and to maybe avoid it. And for me, that was what I wanted to avoid based on past experiences. That is what I am looking for. So when it comes to being choosy, yes, be choosy about this person you're going to spend the rest of your life with. Their personality, are they going to be just a pain in the ass? Are they going to do crazy stuff? Are they going to cut up all your furniture with a kitchen knife, which actually happened to me? Or are they going to be somebody that's going to be in harmony with you? So number 2 I want to talk about is looks and attractiveness. Now, when people say to me, you're too choosy, they refer to looks and how attractive the female is. They're saying you're too choosy, as in she's not hot enough. But if you knew me, and anyone that actually knows me personally knows that I don't go after. I always hate putting a number on looks, but everybody does it, and it's just easy to understand. But I don't chase, I don't date, I don't want to start any relationships with 8, 9s, and 10s. If you want to say it like that, okay? I'm not saying that the women that I have been in relationships with are not attractive. Of course they are. I mean, a 5 in Ukraine is like a 10 in my country, right? You know the ones, they're on Instagram, they've got 100,000 followers, they've got their ass poking out, they've got like perfect fake tits and the big lips and the blonde hair and all of this sort of stuff. I don't date them because I'm looking for a traditional relationship. I've said it since the start. For me, a traditional relationship is not all of that tits hanging out stuff. It's not. It's a girl that has values within herself. Sure, she might be a model and that's part of her job. That's fine. But if she's just doing it for likes and all of the other stuff that goes with social media these days, that's not what I'm looking for. So that's why I never ever chase these amazing, beautiful women that are supermodels. I just don't do it. It's just me. If that's something that you want to pursue, then go ahead and do that. But For me, I would rather date a woman that would be more grounded, more down to earth, that when I pay her attention or give her my attention, she's going to appreciate that. She's not going to be on Instagram worrying about the attention that's over here. So second one I want to talk about is the language barrier. Now, I've only ever really dated women that can speak English or a pretty good level of English that we can understand each other. The reason I do that is because if you're talking to each other, you can create like a bond between each other. You can understand what the other person is saying in context without a translator. Not everybody is like this, and a lot of people who are experts in the industry will say, don't worry about the language, you can get over that and she'll learn it. That may be true, but if you've read the Tactical Guide to Women, which I hadn't read at the start, obviously I'd only just read it after the second part of my journey, you have to be able to understand certain things about the woman that you're with, things in her past, how does she react to certain things. If you don't speak the same language, for me, it's going to be hard to gauge that off it. It's going to be hard to try and figure this out. Obviously, not everybody is like this, and there is successful relationships where they have overcome the language barrier. But what I'm doing is I'm trying to put everything into my favor for it to work, especially now. So for me, English is something that is important to me. I mean, people say, well, why don't you learn Russian? Well, I did start learning Russian, but unless you've got someone to practice this, it is kind of hard, but I learned how to read the alphabet and I want to learn as much as I can going forward. But that's not a practical situation unless I was going to go and live there. The other thing is age gap. Some of the guys that have said to me, you're too fussy. Yet these guys are chasing 20-year age gaps. So I don't understand how that sort of works. When it comes to an age gap for me, I don't want one greater than 10 years. If it was 1 year difference, that's fine. But I find that when the age gap is going to get too large, it can create its own problems in itself. So, I mean, people do have these massive age gaps of 20 years and things like that, but that would make me I would be going out with a 20-year-old, which to me is absolutely ridiculous, and I would never even date a woman that was anywhere near 25. So for me, perfect age gap is a woman in her 30s. One other thing that we have to pay attention to when it comes to this whole overseas dating is we talk about chemistry a lot. And if you ever have anybody that says to you, you're too fussy, one, they don't understand the basics of love, and I guess nobody really does, but there are some things that we have to understand about love and chemistry. And chemistry is kind of the start to love. It's that feeling that you get. Nobody can really explain it, but if you were to explain the physiological reaction that you get from it, it's a fast heart rate. It's your hands are sweaty. It's the feeling of nervousness and excitement. You have to have this. There's nobody out there that can make somebody have this. So if somebody says, you're being too choosy, you should settle. How could you settle without this feeling? How could you settle with it? It just doesn't make any sense. If you don't have that feeling and someone says, you should just settle because that's all there is. For me, it makes no sense. Why are you doing this? You should not settle unless you have chemistry, because chemistry leads to love. Okay, so the next one on here is goals and values. Now, if you actually read the Tactical Guide to Women, it actually discusses this in here. I already had this in my mind, and there's videos that I made even before I read the book about goals and values, and that you need to have, I was always saying you have to have the same values, but the book actually explains it better, and it says that you have to have values that don't clash with each other. So they don't have to be the same, but they just can't clash with each other or contradict each other. And this is important as well. And I believe that this is one of the reasons why these relationships after 2 to 3 to 4 months fail. The guy comes over, they fall in love, he flies back, and then they sort of fail because they realize that, the honeymoon period it's still there, but it's sort of wearing off, but they learn a little bit more about each other. And it's those values and goals in life where it always seems to fall apart. And if we could understand those things at the start, what you're after, and making it very clear what you are expecting in a relationship, then she would also be able to explain the same thing to you. And this is where the whole language thing comes in for me. But on the topic of value, okay, this is the one that really sort of, I need you guys to really, really understand. And if you don't understand it, go away and learn about yourself and learn about what I'm about to tell you, because that is so important, even if it's just for your own self-worth. If anybody out there tells you to settle without knowing what the situation is, just ignore them. Never ever speak to this person ever again. The reason is because everybody has to have a self-worth. They have to have a value. And let's just say you value yourself here. I don't know where this is on any scale, but let's just say that you value yourself here. You know what you bring to a relationship. You know that you are a good human being. You know that you will treat your family well, and you would work hard till the end of time. This is your value. If you meet someone and they put your value here, it's never going to work. The person that you meet has to value you here or higher. It's just the way that it is. The same goes for you valuing this person. If you accept someone who's actually going to value you here, that means that you value yourself here. And this is what you need to work on. Don't listen to anyone that says you need to settle. Your value needs to be high. If it's not high, why is it not high? And fix it so that it is high. I made a comment once on one of my videos that, and maybe it came across wrong, but I still stand behind this comment. And the comment that I made was, I was looking for a happy relationship with a good woman, and I believed that I deserved that. And a couple of comments that I got in there were, they're kind of naive and a bit silly, and they obviously never gone and done this, and they most likely value themselves quite low. But the comments were along the lines of, why do you think that you deserve this? Why do you value yourself so high? And the part of that conversation was based on my previous experience. So in my last relationship, I took care of her. I took care of her newborn child for many, many years. She lived this amazing lifestyle. I tried to fix her. I was the white knight. And in the end, it was devastating to myself financially and emotionally and all of these things after I gave so much and never asked for anything. So when I say I deserve it, that's why I deserve it. My value is here. I know what I'm capable of doing and what I'm capable of putting myself through if it is worth the cause. So that's what I mean by it. What is your value? What is your own personal self-worth? And if anybody ever treats you less than that, they're gone. No questions asked. They're gone. So don't listen to anybody that ever tries to bring you down by saying that you should accept less like they would accept. So it's important to remember here, being realistic and being choosy are different things. There's a line down the middle and you need to figure out where that line is. Classic one to talk about is age. I mean, if you're looking for a 30-year age gap, I mean, that's just absolutely, it's never going to work. The longevity and the sustainability of that relationship is going to be so low. I mean, it's low even with everything else involved, let alone a massive age gap. So you need to put everything into your favor. If you believe that that's what you want to go after, then go after that. I always say, if it's what you really want, go out and get it and don't let anyone else tell you any differently. But you need to be realistic, and there's so many different ways to be realistic. And the other reason why no one should settle is we're not desperate. Like, I'm not desperate to be in a relationship. I mean, it just sounds even ridiculous even saying that. If I wanted to be in a relationship where I'm being valued low by a woman, I can do that here in my own country. That's not a problem. There's plenty here. I could go back with one of my other relationships and continue having a shitty life. But you're looking for something exceptional. And once again, don't get that confused with exceptionally looking, okay? It's exceptional for you. You share all the same values and all that sort of stuff that I've talked about before. There is a stigma that guys that go and do this are desperate. And I guess in some sense you could say, well, the Western world has failed us. So we are desperate in some sense. But the way that I think about it is that if I can't find someone that's perfect for me, I'd rather just be single. And this is the thing that that really came home with me when I started learning about taking my red pills and learning MGTOW and all that sort of stuff, is that I don't need a woman to make me happy. Maybe when I first started this journey, I was a bit more, I guess, naive, and that's kind of what I thought. But going through this, I've realized that unless she's going to be perfect for me and I'm perfect for her and it can be a sustainable relationship, I would rather just be single. I mean, it just makes more sense that you can enjoy your life without having to go through a separation and kids and whatever happens in the future. I'd rather just be single and enjoy my life. So those are the reasons what makes me, I guess if you want to call it, choosy. Now the reason that I'm telling you guys this is that when I started, I never ever would have come up with this list. And most guys starting to do this or thinking about doing this probably have never really come up with that list as well. Maybe a couple of things on there, but not like that. But that's the way you need to think about it. And that's the reason why I'm telling you guys, because I want you to think about it now before you go over there and do this and you end up in a 2 to 4 month relationship that fails. So on my journey, I'll give you an indication of how many dates I've been on and what's actually happened. And you guys can tell me whether or not you think that I am being too choosy. Okay, so I have estimated it at around about 40 to 45 meetings, dates, something like that. which if you've never gone and done this before, that actually sounds like a hell of a lot, but it's really not, especially when you've spent so much time over there, about 6 or 7 months. And considering that, like most guys, when they go to one of these agencies, they go on like maybe sometimes 2 dates, sometimes even 3 per day. So it adds up pretty fast. Now, of that, let's say 45, about 30 of them were not serious, either scammers from bad sort of smaller agencies, or their photos were photoshopped so much so that they were completely unrecognizable when they turned up. Give you an idea, one of them was looked like she was Asian, and they had completely photoshopped the Asian out of her. Nothing against Asian women, but all I'm saying is that that's how heavily photoshopped that these photos were. So as you can imagine, that can get frustrating in itself. Or of that 30, I would say that I went on dates with women that I had absolutely no attraction to, but I just did it because I was at a company which kind of oversold and under-delivered. So I just kind of did it because I had sort of nothing else to do. And you never know, something might have just sort of sparked up. So that leaves about 15 left that were legit ladies that I believe were actually looking for a relationship. One of these ladies I met, didn't go on any other dates, and we hung out for about 3 weeks, I think. We traveled around Ukraine together. Then we had a relationship that lasted for about 5 months. When I came back to see her, we realized that some things, they weren't right, and the relationship finished. This is how sometimes these relationships go. When you go back again, you realize that some of the things that I've talked about, they're sort of not really there. So that's why it's important to know these things. After my relationship ended with her, I went on about another, 10 dates with one of these matchmaking companies until I met one lady, and I cancelled all my other dates. There was probably about 4 that were like, we really hit it off. But this one lady, we hit it off straight away. We just had so much in common. Everything just seemed so good. And we ended up spending about 5 weeks together before we realized that, something wasn't quite right. So out of 45, 2 short relationships that just didn't go anywhere. And when guys are talking about this, they look at the 45. They go, 45, you're way too fussy. These women are not hot enough for you. But really what it is just, you're just trying to find someone that you can have that connection with in a sea of women that are not serious, that might be scammers, that want to take advantage. But if you have in your mind exactly what you're looking for, go to somewhere where hopefully you're not going to get any sort of bad girls or scammers. You can hopefully be a little bit more successful than what I was just by having those things in your mind before you start. So that's it. I was hoping to keep this video as short as possible, but I think it's an important topic to know. Instead of, otherwise it's going to take you 6 months to learn this, a year to learn this. But what I've told you right now, just try and understand it and try and figure out a little bit more about what it is that you are looking for, and more importantly, what you're not looking for before you go on this journey. And hopefully you can be successful. I'll see you guys next time.